The iPhone 6s and 6s Plus were Apple's flagship devices that were released in September 2015. These devices introduced superior hardware and new software features compared to their predecessors. As we approach the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus's 10th birthday, it would be amazing to find out what using these phones is like in 2025 by focusing on different areas. Do these phones still hold up 10 years later? Let's find out. Okay, so we've got an iPhone 6s here, which is the space grey version, and a rose gold iPhone 6s Plus. They've got the same design as their predecessors, so the same design as the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus. They've got the aluminium housing and the antenna, and obviously the layout of the antennas was then changed with the iPhone 7 lineup. They were also the last iPhones to include a headphone jack. I actually know some people that have stuck with an iPhone 6s or 6s Plus simply because they didn't want to lose the headphone jack. And of course you've got the lightning port on both iPhones. It's also worth noting that these were the last iPhones that were not water or dust resistant. The iPhone 7 and 7 Plus were the first water and dust resistant iPhones, and they had an IP67 rating. Now, both of these phones originally shipped with iOS 9, but they are both running iOS 15.8.3 now, which is the latest supported iOS version for them. So this means that it's now obsolete, and both of these phones have stopped receiving important security updates. And some third-party apps are starting to require a higher version of iOS, but you can still use plenty of apps on iOS 15.8.3, whether they support iOS 15.8.3 or whether they allow you to download an older version of the app that is compatible with iOS 15.8.3. Now keep in mind that even then, that doesn't actually guarantee that the app will work. Take the Emirates app here for example. Even though I've downloaded an older version of the app for iOS 15.8.3, it's actually not working. Now, iOS 15.8.3 was released at the end of July of 2024, which isn't too long ago. So technically, the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus received 6 major iOS updates across 9 years. Software support longevity is something that we were used to from Apple even back then. The iPhone 6s has a 4.7-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 1334 by 750, which translates to 326 pixels per inch. The iPhone 6s Plus, on the other hand, has a larger 5.5-inch IPS LCD display with a full HD resolution, so 1920 by 1080, which translates to 401 pixels per inch. So not only is the iPhone 6s Plus's display larger than that of the iPhone 6s, it's actually a bit sharper. And for some people, the iPhone 6s Plus also has the advantage of having a display size that is more consistent with or a little closer to display sizes of more recent phones, whether it's iPhones or Android phones. So some users might say that the iPhone 6s's display is too small by today's standards. Now, a significant addition that came with the iPhone 6s lineup was 3D Touch, which essentially allows you to press and hold an app to get shortcut options, and once you choose one, you'll be taken to that relevant section of the app. So if we try that with the Podcasts app and hit the search option, it'll open the app and take us straight to the search section. With the release of the iPhone XR in 2018 and the iPhone 11 lineup in 2019, Apple replaced 3D Touch with Haptic Touch, which works differently but has the same effect. So instead of special touch-sensitive hardware, Apple switched to a simple long press with vibration feedback from the Taptic engine, and this was basically to cut costs and reduce design complexity. The iPhone 6s and 6s Plus were also the last iPhones to have a mono speaker setup. Stereo speakers were introduced a year later with the iPhone 7 lineup, which allowed for louder and better quality sound compared to the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus. But with that being said, let's give the speakers a quick test. This is my latest video. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already.
The recent release of the iPhone 16e was about more than just an iPhone. It revealed an all-new chip inside an iPhone, which is the Apple C1.
Okay, so we can see that it gets sort of loud at max volume, but the sound quality is not amazing. You can certainly tell the difference in quality when you compare it to newer iPhones. Both of these phones are powered by the A9 processor, which has 2 cores. When both of these phones came out, the CPU performance was excellent, but of course 10 years is a long time, and their speed has obviously deteriorated with software updates, as well as more demanding apps. But this doesn't mean that you can't perform day-to-day tasks. In fact, I would say that it's actually somewhat decent considering how many years went by, especially if you replace the battery. And of course, this translates into nearly identical performance for both the iPhone 6s and iPhone 6s Plus. We can get a bit of an idea with some numbers from Geekbench 6, and they definitely fall behind the newer iPhones when it comes to CPU performance. Both phones have 2GB of RAM, which is double of what the iPhone 6 lineup had, and so that was a pretty good improvement when they came out. But again, back then that was enough, but not so much today, so it won't be able to handle multiple apps running in the background. It'll likely have to reload them. The iPhone 6s and 6s Plus both shipped with 3 storage configurations: 16GB, 64GB, and 128GB. But with the release of the iPhone 7 lineup, the 16GB and 64GB options were dropped and a 32GB option was added, leading to 32GB and 128GB options. Now, both of these iPhones that I've got here have 32GB of storage. Back when they released, that would have been enough, but you'd have to be very careful if you were using a phone with only 32GB of storage today. I consider myself to be someone who doesn't use a lot of storage. My main phone has 256GB of storage, and I use around 75GB of storage, but even that far exceeds 32GB. So I'm sure you can imagine what this would be like for people who actually need a lot of storage. When it comes to the batteries, the iPhone 6s has a 1750 mAh battery, whereas the 6s Plus has a 2750 mAh battery. And even though both batteries are smaller than those of the iPhone 6 lineup, the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus offered similar battery life. But while they did offer similar battery life, these phones were from the time period during which Apple was still quite behind in the battery category. So with the iPhone 6s, getting it through an entire day would require minimal use, and even then you'd probably end up having to charge it either before or at the end of the day. Even more so if you're doing any heavy tasks or playing games or stuff like that. So low power mode is quite important, and many people have it on even with newly replaced batteries. The iPhone 6s Plus on the other hand is a bit more reliable, offering slightly better battery life, and so it's more likely to last you the entire day on minimal use without having to charge it. But of course, if you want to use it quite often during the day, and if you want to perform heavy tasks, you will most likely need to charge it by the end of the day. The iPhone 6s and 6s Plus were the last to feature only one rear camera. So they both have a 12 megapixel rear camera compared to the 8 megapixel rear camera that the iPhone 6 lineup had. The iPhone 6s and 6s Plus rear camera can record video up to 4K 30, and they were the first iPhones to record in 4K altogether, so that was obviously important when they came out. Now, the iPhone 6s Plus's camera has something that the 6s doesn't have, which is optical image stabilization. This was the same case with the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus, except that the 6s Plus now brought optical image stabilization to video recording instead of just photos like the iPhone 6 Plus. The front camera is 5 megapixels, which is an improvement over the 1.2 megapixel front camera in the iPhone 6 lineup. But let's take a look at some samples together. So starting off, we've got some photos showing elements with different colors to get an idea of the color accuracy of the camera. We've also got some night environment photos to test the camera under low light conditions. There's also a selfie, and it's actually worth noting that the iPhone 6s lineup doesn't have portrait mode. And lastly, we've got some videos taken at 4K 30 with the iPhone 6s Plus to take advantage of optical image stabilization, which wasn't possible for video recording in the iPhone 6 Plus. And so having optical image stabilization here allows for a more stable video. Overall, the quality isn't bad, but you can certainly see that Apple cameras have come a long way in the last 10 years. Now, for some reason you're thinking about buying the iPhone 6s or the iPhone 6s Plus in 2025, which is something I obviously don't recommend. You can get them for very cheap. Obviously, most of them will be second-hand, so you'd have to shop around for something of reasonable quality, but you'll find that the prices will be consistently low. Of course, some of the reasons that you shouldn't get yourself an iPhone 6s or 6s Plus in 2025 are very clear. So you've got obsolete software, which means that these phones and the data that they store inherently have more risk to be compromised compared to later iPhones that still receive iOS updates. We also mentioned third-party app compatibility, which will only continue to decrease as time goes by. So that's as apps become more demanding and require even later versions of iOS. Another reason is performance. While it's not terrible, and that's actually a good thing for a 10-year-old phone, it's obviously nowhere near the newer iPhones, and so there shouldn't be a reason for you to subject yourself to significantly lower performance. But let's say you have an iPhone 6s or an iPhone 6s Plus in 2025. What can you do with it realistically? Well, you can definitely use it for the basic tasks like phone calls and messaging, but you can also use it for social media, web browsing, and even potentially a tiny bit of gaming. But if for some reason you're looking to do more than that, then this isn't the phone for you, and you really should consider getting a newer iPhone. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like, share and subscribe. And feel free to let me know in the comments if there is anything tech you're interested in and want me to make a video about. In the next video, we're going to discuss the current state of Samsung Exynos chips. Make sure to tune in for that because it's going to be very interesting. Also, please consider supporting me by donating to my channel through buymeacoffee.com. I would really appreciate any support as I continue to bring fun and interesting content like this. Only if you can, of course. Link down below. This was the Wizard of Tech, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.